I'm Ben. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Composer. Composer is a trading app that gives retail investors access to the power of systematic investing. So unlike a lot of trading apps that focus on the trading of individual stocks and ETFs, our product experience is centered around trading strategies. So we allow you to invest in one of the existing strategies in our library, or you can actually build an entire strategy from scratch. And either way, we let users actually fund an account like you would in a typical brokerage or trading app and trade on real money. So we're licensed as an IRA, and we're about to get our broker-dealer license. So to start, let's dive into our strategy library. And the key here is that we call strategies symphonies. So going on with this music analogy, each of these little like tiles is what we call a symphony. And you can think of it as like a container for a strategy. So just like an ETF is a container for a basket of assets, a symphony is a container for trading logic and the assets that it operates on. And here you can see that we have different categories for different kinds of strategies. So here we have some that are featured. This is cool. This is our community. So these are trading strategies that different influencers have actually developed for Composer. So this is sort of like a curated community library of strategies. We have some like classic stuff here and like different themes of different types of trading strategies. If I click on one of these, you actually, let me do this one. It's pretty simple. You have a fact sheet here. And this is kind of like a prospectus, like you would get for like an ETF or a fund. And here we actually have this back test that back tests this trading strategy. And one of the really cool things that we do that I haven't seen any other retail trading product do is we actually allow you to estimate slippage and transaction fees in the back test, which is a fair bit of work. That's like one thing that, oftentimes back tests are overly rosy because they don't account for spreads, which is the difference between the bid and the ask on when you trade. And then we have some statistics here that tell us like how this symphony performs. So like the annualized return, the maximum peak to trough drawdown, the Sharpe ratio, and here's sort of like how much money you would have net of slippage and fees had you invested in this strategy all the way back going to October 22nd, 2022. And if we scroll down a bit, you can see that unlike like an ETF even, or let alone like a mutual fund or a hedge fund, this symphony is totally transparent. So we have a visual representation here of how this symphony works. So you can see here the logic, and we also have like this natural language description. So if I walk you through this, it's pretty straightforward. It asks, every month, so like that's the trading or rebalance frequency. Ask whether the SPY, so that's an ETF that represents the S&P 500s, if its 60-day cumulative return is above the 60-day cumulative return of TLT, and this is like a long-term treasury fund, and the answer right now is true, right? So we would, that means that currently, this is highlighted, that means that we'd be in the S&P 500 right now because this condition is true. And now what's even cooler is if I go here, I can edit a copy of this. So now we're in our power editor. And this is the Symphony editor. And here we can actually modify all aspects of this symphony. So I can change the name, I can edit the description, and I can also edit all of these parameters here. So right here, we have this conditional logic, right? And I can actually edit every aspect of this conditional logic. So maybe I want to see what happens if the cumulative return is 30 days, if I use that signal instead of 60. And I can change that here. And then I can rerun this and generate a new backtest. So I'm going to jump to the backtest here. I can see how this performs versus my benchmark, and get some performance stats to compare to my benchmark. And then here I can see a graph of what the historical allocations would be over time. So here, when it's like red, you can see that those are times when we'd be holding TLT, and when it's yellowish, that's when we'd be holding SPY. So we can see sort of visually how this logic plays out, has played out historically in terms of the actual holdings. And then here for the benchmarks, I can actually add in one of our own symphonies as a benchmark. So I can compare this to anything that exists. So like maybe I want to look at like, how does this compare to this big tech momentum strategy? And I'm going to rerun this. And now I have added this additional benchmark. We can see that it's blown this current strategy out of the water, but it's also very volatile. And then I can compare everything in this table. So SPY is an actual ETF, but here you can actually compare it to another symphony, which is really, really cool. And then we can also change the assets as well. So right here we have SPY, but what if I don't want to hold SPY? What if I want to hold like QQQ, which is the NASDAQ? And we're going to do that instead, and then run this again. And I can see, how this changes in the back test. And I can actually, let me actually do this. I'm going to add the existing switching. Here we go. Yeah, and so I can just play around with this and see how it compares as I iterate on these different parameters. And let me just go back and actually show you just sort of from first principles how you can build a strategy. So these are like the fundamental building blocks or sort of primitives that you can think of that you can use. And these are like Lego blocks. And this is where the name composer comes from, is that you can compose strategies from these basic blocks and sort of glue them together like Legos. And they're very easy to combine. So every strategy is going to have some weight block, and it's going to also have assets, right? So like even the most basic strategy will always have those two things. So even if I just wanted to like, create a strategy that was a blend of like the S&P and bonds, I would add these two assets and weight them. So here you go. Like I can equal weight these, for example, and this is like a super simple strategy. This is like overkill. Composer's kind of overkill for this, but the point is you can do very simple things if you want using these blocks. Or what I can do is create something that's like a little more complicated. Like here, maybe I want to build like a momentum strategy, and you can use this filter block to achieve that. Or as we showed before, we can use these conditions. So you can create some sort of like switching logic to switch between assets. But where you really get to see the power of Composer is that you can recursively combine these building blocks so that you can create strategies that are actually composed of sub-strategies. So I'm going to go show you something I already built so that I don't bore you by like building all this from scratch. But if I go here, this is the Dragon portfolio. So this is a trading strategy that is composed of these 5 sub-strategies. So we're allocating 21% of our portfolio to this long volatility sub-strategy, 18% to this trend and momentum sub-strategy, 19% to fiat alternatives, 24% to secular growth assets, and 18%. So these are like abstract categories, right? These are groups that we've combined. And if I expand these, you can see that there's logic inside of these. So again, these are all consisting of those building blocks that I was showing before. And if I uncollapse this, you can see what's inside of these, and you can see that the nesting can get pretty deep. There's really nothing else that isn't a full Turing complete programming language that allows you to create things that are this powerful. Because this is kind of like the holy grail, right? Like you want to do something that's multi-strategy, which is a growing category of one of the most successful categories in asset management, which is like strategies that are actually composed of multiple strategies, because that can really give you great risk-adjusted returns. So if I run this, this is actually like there's a lot of computation going on in this strategy, and you can see that it performs really well in risk-adjusted returns relative to SPY, which is the S&P 500. And one last thing I wanted to show actually is here you can notice that we have different types of rebalance types and trading types. And right here, what we're doing is, again, something that's really unprecedented for retail trading tools, which is we are actually allowing you to set a threshold rebalance. So instead of just rebalancing the strategy on some fixed calendar basis, like, quarterly, monthly, weekly, or even daily, what this is doing is it's going to rebalance when your target allocations drift sufficiently from what your actual allocations are, right? So like if you if you have 20% in one thing and you want to be at 25%, when it gets drifts that much, it'll automatically trigger a trading it will trigger an actual trading time. So that's really cool because it really saves a lot on trading costs if you can have this sort of calendar-based rebalancing. And then if you look at this gets really wild. So again, I was showing that allocations graph that shows you like what assets are actually allocated in. You can see this almost looks like a impressionist or something painting or something, sort of a modern painting. But you can see that actually managing this yourself manually would be an absolute pain in the ass, and pretty much impossible. And then you can deploy all of this the way you would invest in a stock or an ETF. So I can just go here, say I want to do a new investment. I'm going to choose an account. I'm going to use paper account for now. And I'm going to put $5,000 into this. I'm going to invest in that now. And so we can see that the investment is now pending. So what's going to happen is all these orders will actually execute at our next trading period. So our next trading period, if I click here, we can see that trades are executed during 3 to 4 p.m. EST, so towards the market close. And for sure people are curious, so we execute market orders right now using because we do fractional trades, and our broker partner for this is Alpaca. So that's what we use to actually execute these trades on the back end. But we're fully integrated, right? So like you're not even aware that Alpaca, if you're a customer, is executing those trades. And again, we're actually in the process of becoming a broker dealer. So from the customer standpoint, you just fund an account. We didn't show that whole process, but you do quick KYC, you fund your account, and it's all seamlessly integrated, which is different from a lot of other apps that have tried to be in the space where you have to like OAuth into separate accounts and all of that. And it's very clunky. We make the experience very, very smooth and very streamlined. And then lastly, you can also share any strategy. So we turn this into content, and I can make this visible to anybody with a link. I can copy this link and like I could even paste this into the chat, and then you could play with this and open a Composer account. So that's that turns into this like shareable, interesting content if you want to collaborate with people. And lastly, if I go to this investment page, you can see these are the actual different symphonies that I'm investing in, and you can see the positions right now. So you can actually build a portfolio of multiple symphonies, and I can invest more or sell any of these very easily. Again, it's almost as easy as just buying or selling stocks. So we've really like created this modern abstraction that really allows you to easily containerize these things and go in and out of them in a way that was very, very difficult before. So that's it.